Captain Marcus Webb opened his eyes slowly. His head hurt badly. The last thing he remembered was his ship exploding around him. Now he was lying on a cold metal floor in a room he did not recognize. He sat up and looked around. The walls were smooth and white, made of some material that seemed to glow slightly. There were no windows, no doors that he could see, just white walls and a floor that felt too cold under his hands. Marcus touched his head and felt dried blood in his hair. His uniform was torn and dirty. His weapons were gone. Everything was gone except the clothes on his back. He stood up on shaky legs and walked to the nearest wall. He pushed against it, but nothing happened. The wall felt solid and slightly warm to the touch. "Hello?" Marcus called out. His voice sounded strange in the empty room. "Can anyone hear me?" No answer came. Marcus walked around the room trying to find any crack or opening. The room was about 30 feet on each side. In one corner, there was a small hole in the wall that dripped water slowly into a metal bowl. In another corner, there was a different hole, probably for waste. That was all. He sat down with his back against the wall and tried to think. He was a prisoner, that much was clear. But who captured him, and why was he still alive? Hours passed. Marcus drank some water from the bowl. It tasted strange, but clean. He was hungry, but no food came. Then the wall in front of him began to change. It became clear like glass. Behind it, Marcus could see creatures he had never seen before. They looked like giant insects, standing on two legs. Their bodies were covered in hard shells that were dark green and black. They had 4 arms each, and their heads had large eyes that looked in different directions at once. The Krevtal. Marcus had heard stories about them from other soldiers. They were the enemy that humanity had been fighting for 2 years. They were smart and cruel, and they saw humans as nothing more than animals. One of the Krevtal touched something Marcus could not see. Suddenly, a voice came into the room. It sounded mechanical and flat. "Human specimen is awake," the voice said. "Beginning phase 1 of experiment." Marcus stood up quickly. "Experiment? What are you talking about?" The Krevtal did not answer him. They just watched with their strange eyes and made clicking sounds to each other. The floor under Marcus began to move. No, not move, it was growing. The room was getting bigger. The walls pushed outward until the space was 4 times larger than before. The smooth white walls changed too. Now they looked like rocks and earth. Small plants appeared, growing impossibly fast from the floor. A small pool of water formed in the center. The ceiling changed to look like a sky, though Marcus could tell it was fake. It glowed with soft light, like daytime. Marcus backed up against the far wall, his heart beating fast. What was happening? Then he heard a sound that made his blood run cold. It was a hissing, snarling sound. The sound of something angry and dangerous. Part of the wall opened up, and 3 creatures stumbled into the expanded room. Marcus stared at them. They looked like women, but not human. They had fur covering their bodies. One had black fur that seemed to swallow light. Another had gray fur with darker stripes. The third had rust-colored fur that was patched and uneven. They all had tails that lashed back and forth behind them. Their hands had fingers, but those fingers ended in sharp claws. Their faces were a mix of human and cat, with large eyes, small noses, and mouths full of pointed teeth. All 3 were thin. Their ribs showed through their fur. Their eyes looked wild and scared. The black-furred one was the biggest. She stood up straight and looked around with eyes that glowed amber in the light. The gray one was smaller and moved nervously, her tail twitching. The rust-colored one had scars all over her body, and she moved like every step hurt. The mechanical voice spoke again. Felinar subjects introduced. Human combat response will be measured. The three cat-like aliens saw Marcus. Their ears went flat against their heads. The big black one opened her mouth and hissed, showing all her teeth. The sound echoed in the large space. Marcus raised his hands slowly, palms out. "Easy," he said softly. "I'm not going to hurt you." The gray one made a sound like a growl mixed with a whimper. She backed toward the wall, her eyes never leaving Marcus. The rust-colored one just stared at him. Her eyes looked tired and sad. The black one took a step toward Marcus. Her claws extended from her fingers. She was testing him, Marcus realized, trying to see what he would do. Marcus did not move. He kept his hands up and his body still. "It's okay," he said, keeping his voice calm and low. "I know you're scared. I'm scared too." The black one stopped. Her ears twitched forward slightly, then back again. She tilted her head, watching him. Marcus slowly sat down on the ground, cross-legged. He made himself smaller, less threatening. He kept his hands visible, resting on his knees. "See? Not here to fight," he said. The three aliens watched him. They did not attack, but they did not relax either. They moved to the far side of the room, as far from Marcus as they could get. They huddled together, their tails wrapping around each other. Marcus stayed sitting. He could hear the Kreftal making their clicking sounds behind the wall. He knew they were watching, waiting for violence, waiting for him to attack these creatures or for them to attack him. He was not going to give them what they wanted. Hours passed. Marcus did not move from his spot. The three aliens stayed in their corner, watching him with wide eyes. Sometimes one would hiss if he shifted his weight, but mostly they just stared. Eventually a slot opened in the wall. Several pieces of some kind of food dropped to the floor. It looked like gray bread or meat. Marcus could not tell which. There were only 4 pieces. Not enough for 4 people to eat well. The three aliens looked at the food, then at Marcus. They were clearly hungry. Marcus could hear their stomachs growling from across the room. Marcus stood up slowly. All 3 immediately tensed, ready to run or fight. He walked to where the food had fallen. He picked up all 4 pieces. The aliens hissed at him. The black one took a step forward, her body low and ready to pounce. Marcus took 1 piece for himself. Then he walked halfway between where he had been sitting and where they were huddled. He placed the 3 other pieces on the ground. Then he walked backward, back to his spot, and sat down again. He took a small bite of his piece. It tasted terrible, like dried cardboard mixed with salt, but he ate it anyway. The 3 aliens stared at the food he had left for them. They looked at each other. The gray one's ears moved forward. She took a careful step toward the food, watching Marcus the whole time. Marcus looked away, giving her space. He took another bite of his own food, and pretended to be very interested in the fake sky above. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw the gray one dart forward, grab a piece of food, and run back. The other 2 quickly did the same. They ate fast, tearing into the food like they had not eaten in days. They probably had not. When they finished, they huddled together again, but this time the black one's eyes looked different when she stared at Marcus. Less angry, more confused. Marcus finished his small piece of food and lay down on the hard ground. He put his hands behind his head and closed his eyes. He did not sleep. He could not with 3 dangerous aliens nearby, but he pretended to. He wanted them to see that he was not afraid, that he trusted them not to attack while he rested. The message was clear. We are all prisoners here. We do not need to be enemies. Whether they understood or not, Marcus did not know. But it was a start, and in a cage designed for violence, starting with peace was the most human thing he could do. The second day in the cage began with a loud sound that made everyone jump. It was a sharp buzzing noise that hurt Marcus's ears. The three Felinar covered their ears with their hands and made sounds of pain. Their large ears were more sensitive than his. Marcus stood up and shouted at the walls, "Stop it! You're hurting them!" The sound continued for another minute, then stopped suddenly. Marcus looked over at the three aliens. They were shaking, huddled even closer together than before. The gray one was making a soft crying sound. Marcus felt anger build in his chest. The Krevtal were not just watching them, they were testing them, causing them pain to see what would happen, to see if Marcus would attack them when they were weak, or if they would attack him. He sat down again and took slow breaths. Getting angry would not help. He needed to think. More food came that day, dropped from the slot in the wall. Again, only 4 pieces. Marcus did the same thing he had done before. He took 1 piece and put the other 3 on the ground between them. Then he went back to his corner and ate. This time, the gray one came out first. She was less afraid now. She grabbed her piece and went back, but she did not run. She walked. The rust-colored one came next. She moved slowly because of her injuries. Marcus could see her limping badly. When she bent down to pick up the food, she made a sound of pain. The black one came last. She picked up her food, but did not go back right away. She stood there, staring at Marcus. Her amber eyes were sharp and intelligent. Marcus met her gaze, but did not stare aggressively. He looked at her, then looked away, then looked back. It was what he had seen dogs do when trying not to threaten each other. After a long moment, she took her food and walked back to the others, but she kept watching him while she ate. On the 3rd day, something changed. The rust-colored one was sick. Marcus woke up to hear her making sounds of pain. The other 2 were standing over her, making worried noises. She was lying on her side, breathing too fast. Her eyes were closed tight. Even from across the room, Marcus could see that she was shaking. He looked at her scars more carefully. Some of them looked red and swollen, infected, and they had been getting worse each day in this dirty cage. Marcus stood up. Immediately, the black one and gray one turned to face him. They moved to stand between him and the sick one. The message was clear: stay away. Marcus raised his hands. "I want to help," he said quietly. "Please, let me help her." They did not understand his words, but they understood his tone. Still, they did not move. Marcus looked around the room. There was water in the pool. His uniform was already torn. Slowly, carefully, he tore off one of his sleeves. The fabric ripped with a loud sound that made the gray one jump. He walked to the pool and wet the fabric in the clean water. Then he held it up so they could see it. "For her wounds," he said, pointing to the sick one, then to the wet cloth. The black one tilted her head. Her ears moved forward slightly. Marcus took 1 step toward them. The black one growled. He stopped immediately. Okay, he said. "I'll wait." He sat down about 10 feet away from them. He held the wet cloth in his hands and waited. An hour passed. The sick one's breathing got worse. She was making small crying sounds now. The other 2 were clearly frightened for her. Finally, the sick one's eyes opened. She looked at Marcus. Her eyes were different colors, he noticed. One was green and one was gold. Those strange eyes looked at him for a long time. Then she made a sound. The black one looked down at her, then at Marcus, then back at her friend. They seemed to be communicating somehow. The black one stepped aside. Marcus's heart beat faster. They were letting him approach. Slowly, very slowly, he moved forward. He kept the wet cloth visible. He moved like he was approaching a wild animal, which he supposed he was. The gray one moved away, nervous, but the black one stayed close, watching Marcus's every move. If he did anything wrong, she would attack. He knew that. Marcus knelt down next to the sick one. Up close, he could see how bad her wounds really were. Deep scars that had never healed properly. Some were oozing. The infection was serious. "This is going to hurt," Marcus said softly, even though she could not understand. "But it will help. I promise." He began to clean the wounds with the wet cloth. The rust-colored Felinar made sounds of pain, but she did not pull away. The Black One watched too, so close that Marcus could feel her breath on his neck. Marcus worked carefully. He cleaned each wound as well as he could with just water and cloth. He tore more pieces from his uniform to make bandages. They were not good bandages, but they were better than nothing. When he finished, the sick one's breathing was a little easier. Marcus moved back slowly, giving them space again. He returned to his corner and sat down. The Black One looked at her friend, then at Marcus. Something had changed in her eyes. The anger was less. The fear was less. Now there was something else. Curiosity, maybe, or the beginning of trust. That night, Marcus woke up suddenly. He had fallen asleep without meaning to. For a moment he panicked. He had let his guard down. That was dangerous. But nothing had attacked him. He was fine. He sat up and looked around in the dim light. The Gray One was sleeping only a few feet away from him. Not touching, but closer than she had ever been before. Marcus felt something warm in his chest. Progress. Slow, small progress. But progress. The next days followed a pattern. Food came twice a day now, but never enough. Marcus always shared it equally. The Krevtal made their experiments. Sometimes loud noises. Sometimes the room got very hot or very cold. Sometimes the lights went completely dark or became painfully bright. Every time Marcus tried to protect the three Felinar. When it was cold, he huddled near them to share body heat, though they would not let him touch them yet. When it was too bright, he positioned himself between them and the worst of the light. The rust-colored one was getting better. Her wounds were cleaner now. She could walk without limping as much. The Gray One started bringing Marcus things. A smooth stone from near the pool. A piece of the plant that grew in the corner. Marcus accepted each one seriously and kept them in a pile near where he slept. The Black One was the most cautious, but she watched everything Marcus did. He could feel her studying him, trying to understand him. On the 6th day, Marcus tried something new. He found some small pebbles near the pool and brought them to the center of the room. He sat down and began making patterns with them. The three Felinar watched from their corner. After a while, the Gray One came closer. She sat down across from him, several feet away. Marcus pushed some pebbles toward her. She looked at them, then at him. Then carefully, she began making her own pattern. It was a simple game. No rules, no winner. Just something to do. Something that was not about fear, or pain, or survival. The rust-colored one joined next. She sat beside the Gray One and added pebbles to the pattern. Her movements were still careful because of her wounds, but she made a sound that might have been happy. The Black One came last. She sat down and watched them play. She did not add pebbles, but she did not stop them either. For the first time since they had been put in this cage, there was something other than fear. There was something almost like peace. Marcus hummed while they played. It was an old song his mother used to sing. The three Felinar's ears twitched, listening to the sound. Behind the walls, the Krevtal watched and made their clicking sounds. Their experiment was not going as planned. There was no violence, no aggression, no useful data about human combat behavior. But Marcus did not care what they wanted. He just kept playing with stones and humming his song, while three alien warriors slowly learned that not every stranger was an enemy. By the 7th day, Marcus had learned to read their body language. When the Black One's ears pointed straight up, she was alert and watching. When they flattened back, she was angry or scared. The Gray One's tail twitched when she was nervous, wrapping around her own leg. The rust-colored one's eyes would half close when she felt safe. They were learning to read him too. They understood now that when he smiled, showing his teeth, it was not a threat like when they did it. They knew his open hands meant he was not hiding anything. They understood his tone of voice, even if they did not know his words. Marcus started trying to teach them some simple words. He would point to the water and say water over and over, then point to the food and say food. At first they just stared at him like he was crazy, but the gray one started to catch on. One day, she pointed at the water herself and made a sound. Wata. It was not perfect, but close enough. Marcus grinned and nodded. Yes, water. She made a sound that might have been a laugh. It was high and chirping. The other two looked at her in surprise. Then she pointed at Marcus and said another word in her own language. It sounded like Karvesh. Marcus pointed at himself. Marcus, he said, then pointed at her, raising his eyebrows in question. She understood. She touched her chest. Rin. Marcus felt like he had won a victory. Rin, he repeated. Your name is Rin. Rin's tail did something that looked like a happy wave. She pointed at the black one and said, Kes. Then at the rust-colored one, Sola. Marcus repeated each name carefully. Kes, Rin, Sola. They were not just three dangerous aliens anymore. They were people with names. Kes watched this exchange with her intense amber eyes. After a moment, she spoke for the first time, saying Marcus's name. Her voice was deeper than Rin's, with a rough, growling edge. Marcus. Yes, Marcus said, touching his chest. Marcus. Kes's tail did a slow movement that Marcus was starting to recognize as satisfaction. Over the next days, they taught each other more words. Marcus learned that their species was called Felinar. He learned their words for hot, cold, hurt, good, bad. They learned human words for the same things. But more importantly, they started trying to tell each other their stories. Using the few words they shared, plus drawings in the dirt floor, plus gestures, they began to communicate. Sola drew first. She used a claw to scratch pictures in the dirt near the pool. She drew many Felinar standing together. Then she drew ships in the sky. Then she drew the Felinar falling down. Her claw pressed hard into the dirt, showing anger. Marcus watched carefully. The Krevtal attacked your world, he said quietly. Sola looked at him and nodded. She understood his tone if not his words. She drew Felinar fighting back. Then she drew something being sprayed from the ships. After that, she drew Felinar with their mouths open, looking wild. She made harsh slashing motions with her claws. Kes made a low sound of pain. Rin looked away. Marcus felt cold understanding settle in his stomach. They did something to you. Made you violent. Made you fight each other. Sola nodded again. Her eyes were wet. She scratched out the last drawing viciously, erasing it. Marcus reached out slowly and touched her shoulder, just lightly. It was the first time he had touched any of them. Sola looked at his hand, then at his face. She did not pull away. I'm sorry, Marcus said. I'm so sorry that happened to you. She might not have understood the words, but she understood the feeling. She put her hand over his for just a moment. Her fur was soft. Then she moved away, curling up with her back to him. Kes looked at Marcus for a long time after that. Then she began her own drawing. She drew what Marcus recognized as a cage. She drew many Felinar in many cages. She pointed to herself, then to Rin and Sola. They had been kept in cages for a long time, prisoners. She drew the Krevtal scientists watching them. She drew needles, things being injected. She made a gesture that seemed to mean sleep or unconsciousness. They experimented on you too, Marcus said. He felt sick. They kept you locked up and studied you. Kes nodded. Then she pointed at Marcus and raised her hands in question. Your story? Marcus took a breath and began his own drawing. He drew Earth, his home. He drew ships going out to the stars. He drew the Krevtal attacking. He drew humans fighting back. He drew his ship exploding. Drew himself here, in this cage. He pointed to the walls around them, then to all four of them. We're all prisoners. All of us, trapped by them. All three Felinar looked at his drawings. Then Kes did something that surprised Marcus. She reached out and put her hand on his shoulder, the same way he had touched Sola. It was a gesture of understanding, of sympathy. We are the same, Marcus, she seemed to be saying without words. We are all victims here. That night, Marcus woke up to a sound he had not heard before. It was a low, rumbling sound. He sat up carefully and looked around. Sola was having a nightmare. She was curled in a tight ball, shaking. Her claws were digging into the ground. The rumbling sound was coming from her chest. It sounded like a growl, mixed with a whimper. Kes and Rin were awake too, pressed against her sides. But she was not calming down. Marcus remembered his mother when he had nightmares as a child. She would hum to him, sing soft songs until the bad dreams went away. He started humming quietly, the same song he had hummed before. An old Earth lullaby about stars and sleep and safety. Sola's ears twitched toward the sound. Her shaking slowed a little. Marcus kept humming, adding words now, singing softly. Hush now, don't you cry. Stars are watching from the sky, safe and warm until the day. All the bad dreams go away. It was a simple song, a children's song, but the melody was gentle, and the rhythm was slow and calming. Sola's breathing began to match the rhythm of the song. Her claws slowly released their grip on the ground. The rumbling sound faded. By the time Marcus finished the third verse, she was sleeping peacefully. Kes and Rin were both staring at him. In the dim light, their eyes reflected like cat's eyes back on Earth. It's okay, Marcus whispered. Just a song to chase nightmares away. We all need that sometimes. He lay back down, expecting them to do the same. But they did not. They kept watching him. After a few minutes, Rin stood up. She walked across the space between them and lay down about a foot away from Marcus, close enough to feel safe, close enough to hear if he sang again. Kes stayed with Sola, but her tail reached out and rested near Marcus's leg. A connection, a bridge between their two groups. The next day, the Krevtal tried something new. The temperature in the room dropped fast. It became cold, very cold, cold enough to see their breath in the air. Marcus only had the remains of his torn uniform. The Felinar had their fur, but they were so thin that it did not protect them much. They all began to shiver. Marcus made a decision. Come here, he said to them, gesturing. Kes, Rin, Sola. Come here. We need to stay warm together. They understood what he wanted, but they hesitated. Being that close to him, touching him was still scary. Marcus sat down and made himself small. He opened his arms, inviting but not forcing. Rin came first, like she usually did. She pressed against his side, and he wrapped one arm around her. Her fur was soft, and her body was warm. She made a small sound of surprise, then relaxed. Sola came next, sitting on his other side. She leaned her head against his shoulder. Up close, Marcus could smell her fur. It smelled like dust and fear, but also something sweeter underneath. Kes was last. She sat in front of Marcus, facing out, positioning herself between him and the walls where the Krevtal watched. Even now, even when accepting comfort, she was protecting them. Marcus wrapped his arms around all three as much as he could. They pressed close, sharing heat. Their breathing synchronized. Their hearts beat in rhythm. The Krevtal could make the room cold. They could make their bodies hurt. They could trap them in this cage. But they could not stop this moment of connection, this small family they had built from fear and kindness. Marcus started humming again. The three Felinars slowly stopped shivering. Together, They were warm enough. Together, they were strong enough. And for the first time, Marcus understood something important. The Krevtal thought they were studying him, but they were wrong. This was not about one human and 3 aliens. This was about 4 people learning that they did not have to face their fear alone. The morning of the 8th day began differently. There were no tests, no sudden noises or temperature changes. The room stayed quiet and calm. Food came in the usual slot, but this time there were 6 pieces instead of 4. Marcus found that strange. The Krevtal never gave them extra anything, but he did not question good fortune. He divided the food equally, giving everyone more than usual. Kess, Rin, and Sola ate with better appetite now. They were still too thin, but Marcus could see small improvements. Sola's wounds were healing clean. Rin's nervous twitching had decreased. Kess's eyes were less sharp with constant alertness. After eating, they did their usual routine. Marcus and Rin practiced words together. She was getting quite good at basic human words now. She could say water, food, cold, warm, sleep, wake, good, and bad. Marcus had learned just as many Felinar words. Sola liked to explore the habitat. She would walk around, examining the fake plants and rocks. Sometimes she would bring interesting things back to show the others. A pretty stone, a leaf that felt soft, small treasures in their prison. Kess always stayed alert, but she had started to relax slightly. Marcus noticed she would sometimes groom Rin's fur, or touch Sola's shoulder as she passed. Small gestures of affection that showed they were not just surviving together anymore, they were bonding. Around midday, Marcus felt tired. The stress of the past week was catching up with him. His body hurt from sleeping on the hard ground. His head still ached from his injuries. He needed rest. He found a spot in the corner where some of the fake plants made a softer surface. He lay down there, using his arm as a pillow. The plants smelled strange, but not unpleasant. "I'm going to sleep for a while," he told the 3 Felinar. They understood his tone and gesture. Rin nodded. He felt himself drifting off quickly. His last thought was that he should not sleep so deeply. He should stay alert. But his body had other plans. He did not know how long he slept. When he woke up, something felt different. There was weight on his body. Warmth. The sound of breathing very close to his ears. Marcus opened his eyes slowly. At first, he could not understand what he was seeing. Black fur, gray fur, rust-colored fur, all around him, on him, pressed against him. He turned his head carefully. Kess was lying across his legs, her large body curled like a cat, her tail wrapped around his ankle. Rin was tucked against his right side, her head resting on his shoulder, one hand holding on to his torn shirt. Sola was on his left, her head on his chest, right over his heart. He could feel her breathing, slow and steady. All 3 were deeply asleep, and all 3 were making that rumbling sound he had heard before. Not from nightmares this time. This sound was different, softer, rhythmic. It vibrated through their bodies. They were purring. Marcus felt his throat get tight. His eyes burned with tears he would not let fall. These 3 warriors, these survivors who had been hurt and caged and experimented on, felt safe enough to sleep on him, to use him as their pillow, to trust him completely. He did not dare move. He barely breathed. He did not want to wake them or disturb this moment. From the corner of his eye, he could see the observation wall. It was clear now, not clouded like usual. He could see the Krevtal scientists on the other side, staring at them. There were more of them than usual, at least a dozen, all watching, all making their clicking sounds. Some were touching screens and making notes. Others just stared. Marcus met the eyes of one of them. He could not read their insect-like expressions, but he hoped they understood what they were seeing. These feral aliens were not monsters. They were people. People who needed kindness and safety and care, just like anyone else. One of the Krevtal moved away from the group. Marcus watched it walk to some kind of control panel. The creature's 4 arms moved over the controls. Suddenly, a loud alarm sound blared through the habitat. It was deafening, painful. Marcus flinched hard. All 3 Felinar woke up immediately. Kess jumped to her feet, claws out, looking for danger. Rin made a frightened sound and pressed closer to Marcus. Sola curled into a ball, her hands over her ears. The alarm kept going. Marcus sat up and wrapped his arms around Rin and Sola, trying to shield their sensitive ears. "It's okay," he shouted over the noise. "It's just sound. You're safe." Kess positioned herself in front of them, her body tense and ready to fight. Even frightened, even hurt by the noise, her first instinct was to protect. The alarm stopped as suddenly as it started. The silence afterward felt strange. Marcus looked at the observation wall. The Krevtal were very busy now, all of them making notes and clicking at each other. One of them, larger than the others with different markings on its shell, seemed to be in charge. It made loud clicks, and the others responded quickly. Marcus felt anger rise in his chest. "Why?" he shouted at them. "Why do you keep hurting us? What do you want?" Of course, they did not answer. They never did. Kess turned to look at Marcus. Her ears were still flat, her body still tense. But when she saw him holding Rin and Sola protectively, something in her expression softened. She came back to them and sat down, placing herself between Marcus and the wall again. They sat together like that for a long time, calming down from the scare. Gradually, heartbeats slowed. Breathing became normal again. Rin stopped shaking. "I'm sorry I fell asleep," Marcus said quietly. "I should have stayed alert." Kess tilted her head at him. She reached out and touched his face with one hand, her claws carefully retracted. It was a gentle gesture. She said something in her language, soft and low. Marcus did not know the words, but he understood the meaning. "Not your fault. We chose to sleep with you. We felt safe." The rest of the day was quiet. The Krevtal did not do any more tests. But there was activity behind the walls. Marcus could see more scientists coming and going. They seemed agitated, their movements quick and jerky. Something had changed. Marcus did not know what, but he could feel it. That evening, food came again, 8 pieces this time. They were trying something different, Marcus thought. Maybe seeing how they would react to more food. Would Marcus take more for himself? He divided it exactly equally, as he always did. 2 pieces each. Kess, Rin, and Sola accepted their portions without surprise. This was normal now. This was how Marcus did things. Fair, equal, kind. After eating, they settled down for sleep. Without discussion, without hesitation, the 3 Felinar arranged themselves around Marcus again. Kess by his legs, Rin at his side, Sola on his chest. Marcus wrapped his arms around them gently. "Good night, Kess. Good night, Rin. Good night, Sola," he whispered. Rin said something back in Felinar. It sounded like a good night wish. Sola's hand found his, and squeezed gently. Kess's tail wrapped around his leg again, a now familiar weight. The purring started soon after. That deep, rumbling sound of contentment, of trust, of family. Marcus looked up at the fake sky above them. Somewhere beyond this cage, beyond this ship, there was a real sky, real stars, his home, their homes. Worlds where people lived without cages and fear. He made a promise to himself, and to the 3 people sleeping on him. Somehow, some way, he would get them out of here. They deserved to see real sky again. They deserved to be free. Behind the observation wall, the Krevtal watched and recorded everything. The image of 1 human and 3 Felinar sleeping peacefully together was being transmitted across their networks. Scientists on other ships were seeing it. Officials in their government were seeing it. And somewhere in the Krevtal hierarchy, people were starting to ask questions. If humans could do this, if they could turn violent test subjects into peaceful companions in just 8 days, what did that mean? What did it say about their war, about their assumptions, about everything they thought they knew? But they could not be ignored, because the evidence was right there, sleeping soundly in a habitat designed for violence. 3 Felinar who had been called monsters, sleeping curled around a human who had been called primitive. And all 4 of them were proving that there was something stronger than weapons or fear or hate. Something that the Krevtal had not accounted for in their plans. Compassion, trust, love. And it was going to change everything. The explosion came without warning. One moment, Marcus was teaching Rin a new word. The next moment, the entire habitat shook violently. The fake sky above flickered and went dark. Red lights started flashing everywhere. Kess was on her feet instantly, pulling Rin and Sola close. Marcus stood up too, his heart racing. What's happening? Another explosion, closer this time. The walls shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. In the distance, Marcus could hear sounds he recognized. Gunfire, human weapons. It's a rescue, Marcus breathed. They found me. More explosions followed. The habitat lights went out completely, leaving only the red emergency lights. Kess growled low in her throat, her eyes wide in the darkness. Rin was shaking. Sola pressed against Marcus's side. Through the observation wall, Marcus could see chaos. Krevtal scientists were running. Some were operating controls frantically. The organized research facility was falling apart. Then the wall itself cracked. A large split appeared in the supposedly unbreakable surface. On the other side, Marcus could see the corridor beyond. He could see Krevtal soldiers now, carrying weapons, and he could see them falling as human plasma fire cut through their ranks. "We need to get ready," Marcus said to the 3 Felinar. "My people are coming. They'll get us out." But Kess shook her head violently. She pointed at herself, at Rin, at Sola. Then she made a slashing gesture. She was trying to tell him something. "What? I don't understand." Rin tried next. She pointed at the 3 of them, then made herself look wild and dangerous, baring her teeth and snarling. Then she pointed at the human weapons Marcus had described in his drawings. Marcus felt cold understanding. "You think they'll shoot you? You think my people will see you as enemies?" All 3 nodded. "No," Marcus said firmly. "No, I won't let that happen. You're with me. You're under my protection. I'll make them understand." The observation wall shattered completely. Smoke poured into the habitat. Through it, Marcus could hear voices shouting in English. "Sweep every room. Find Captain Webb. Contact confirmed from this sector. Watch for hostiles. Scientists report dangerous subjects in containment." Marcus's stomach dropped. Dangerous subjects. They meant Kess, Rin, and Sola. The Krevtal had probably told the human forces that there were violent aliens in the cells, warned them to shoot first. He moved quickly to stand between the 3 Felinar and the broken wall. "Get behind me," he ordered. "Stay close. Don't make any aggressive moves. Please, trust me." Kess looked like she wanted to argue, but she nodded. The 3 moved behind Marcus, pressing close. He could feel them trembling. Footsteps came through the smoke. Heavy boots. A team of soldiers in full combat armor emerged, weapons raised. Their helmet lights cut through the darkness, landing on Marcus. "Captain Webb," the lead soldier shouted. "Sir, are you injured? Are you alone?" "I'm fine, Lieutenant," Marcus called back. "But I'm not alone. Don't shoot. There are friendlies with me." "Sir, the reports say there are hostile aliens in your cell. Step away from them so we can neutralize the threat." "Negative." Marcus spread his arms wider, making himself a bigger shield. "These are not hostiles. They are prisoners of war, Same as me. They are under my direct protection. You will not harm them. The soldiers hesitated. Their weapons stayed up, but no one fired. The lieutenant took a step closer, his light sweeping over Kess, Rin, and Sola behind Marcus. They looked exactly like what the Krevtal had described. Large, clawed, dangerous. Sir, they're Felinar. The reports say Felinar are violent and unstable, that they attack without provocation. The reports are lies, Marcus said firmly. Krevtal propaganda. These three have been with me for over a week. They have not hurt me once. They protected me, cared for me. They are victims, Lieutenant, not enemies. A soft sound came from behind him. Sola was crying quietly. Rin was breathing too fast. Kess was trying to be brave, but her ears were flat against her head. Marcus reached back without looking and found Sola's hand. He squeezed it gently. It's okay, he said softly. I've got you. The lieutenant lowered his weapon slightly. Sir, this is highly irregular. I don't care if it's irregular. I'm giving you a direct order. These three come with us. They are refugees seeking asylum. We do not leave them behind. Captain, even if we wanted to, we don't have authorization to transport alien POWs. The extraction ship won't accept them. Marcus felt fury rise in his chest. Then I'm not leaving either. If they don't go, I don't go. Are you going to leave your captain behind, Lieutenant? The soldiers looked at each other. This was not what they had trained for. This was not in any manual. Before anyone could answer, alarms started blaring throughout the ship. A mechanical voice spoke in the Krevtal language. The soldiers' translators picked it up and repeated in English. Self-destruct sequence initiated. All personnel evacuate immediately. 10 minutes to detonation. We're out of time, the lieutenant said. We need to go now. Then we all go, Marcus said. Together, that's final. The lieutenant made a decision. Fine, but they stay between us. Any aggressive moves, and we will respond. Understood, Captain? But there won't be any aggressive moves. Trust me. The lieutenant gestured to his team. Form up. We're moving. Marcus turned to Kess, Rin, and Sola. We're leaving. Stay close to me. Do what I do. It's going to be loud and scary, but you'll be safe, I promise. Kess looked at him with those amber eyes. Then she nodded once. Trust Marcus, she said in careful English. It was the first full sentence she had ever said in his language. Marcus felt his heart clench. Yes, trust Marcus, always. They moved through the damaged ship quickly. The soldiers led the way, clearing corridors. Marcus stayed in the middle with Kess, Rin, and Sola. More soldiers brought up the rear. They passed other cells. Some were empty. Others held creatures Marcus did not recognize. In one cell, he saw more Felinar, unconscious and hooked to machines. Wait, Marcus said. There are more of their people. Sir, we don't have time, the lieutenant said. That self-destruct is real. 8 minutes. Marcus looked at Kess. Her eyes were locked on the cells holding her people. Her hands were clenched into fists. Then, from a side corridor, a Krevtal appeared. But not a soldier. It was one of the scientists Marcus recognized from the observations, the one with different markings. It was carrying a data device. The soldiers raised their weapons. Down on the ground, now. The Krevtal made a gesture of surrender. Its translator spoke. Wait, please. I wish to help. We don't need your help, the lieutenant growled. The other Felinar, the scientist said, pointing at the cells. I can wake them, release them. The controls are here. It held up the device. I give this to you. All of it. Data on what we did. Proof of our crimes. Evidence that can end this war. Please, let me do one right thing. Marcus stared at the creature. Why would you help us? The Krevtal looked at Marcus, then at Kess, Rin, and Sola. I watched you. All of us did. We saw what you did with the Felinar, how you treated them. It made me question everything we have done, everything we believe. I cannot undo our crimes, but perhaps I can help some of our victims. 6 minutes, one of the soldiers said urgently. Marcus made a decision. Do it. Wake them. Free them. Fast. The scientist moved quickly, using its device to open the cells and deactivate the sedation systems. Felinar began waking up, confused and frightened. There were 15 of them, all in bad condition. Kess moved forward and started speaking to them in her language. Her voice was urgent but calm. The newly freed Felinar looked at her, then at Marcus and the human soldiers, clearly afraid. Tell them we're getting everyone out, Marcus said to Kess. Tell them they're free now. Some of the Felinar looked disbelieving. Others looked hopeful. All of them were weak from captivity. 4 minutes, the lieutenant said. We need to move now. They ran. It was chaotic and desperate. The soldiers helped carry Felinar, who could not walk well. Marcus supported Sola, who was tiring. Rin stayed close to his side. Kess led the other Felinar, her voice strong and commanding. The Krevtal scientist came too, still carrying the data device. The evidence, it kept saying. You must preserve the evidence. They reached the docking bay, where the human ship waited. It was a transport vessel, designed for quick extractions. The pilot's voice came over the comm. Captain Webb, please tell me that is not a herd of unauthorized aliens I'm seeing. That's exactly what it is, Marcus said. Get the ramp down. Everyone on board, now. Sir, I'll need this in writing. I'll need authorization. You'll need to follow my direct order and get these people to safety, Marcus shouted. Move, pilot! The ramp came down. The soldiers helped everyone aboard. 15 Felinar plus Kess, Rin, and Sola, the Krevtal scientist, and the human extraction team. 1 minute to detonation, the pilot said. We need to undock. Do it, Marcus ordered. The ship pulled away from the Krevtal vessel. Through the viewport, Marcus watched as they put distance between them and the research ship. Kess, Rin, and Sola pressed close to the window, watching their prison shrink away. The research vessel exploded in a bright flash. The shockwave hit the transport, making it shake. But they were far enough. They were safe. For the first time in over a week, Marcus let himself breathe. Really breathe. They had made it. He looked around at the rescued Felinar. Some were crying. Others were holding each other. All of them looked overwhelmed. The Krevtal scientist sat alone in a corner, its data device clutched in its hands. Rin tugged on Marcus's sleeve. When he looked down, she was smiling. Actually smiling. Safe, she said in English. We safe now. Yes, Marcus said, his voice rough with emotion. We're safe. Sola pressed her forehead against his shoulder. A Felinar gesture he had learned meant deep gratitude. Kess stood on his other side, her tail wrapping around his leg, one more time. The pilot's voice came over the comm again. Captain, command is asking what the hell is going on. They want a full report. Marcus took a deep breath. Tell them Captain Webb is bringing home prisoners of war who need asylum. Tell them I have evidence of Krevtal war crimes, and tell them I will personally explain everything when we land. But these Felinar are under my protection, and anyone who wants to change that will have to go through me first. Understood, sir. Setting course for home. ETA 6 hours. Marcus sat down on the floor, suddenly exhausted. Immediately, Kess, Rin, and Sola sat with him, pressing close. Their warmth, their trust, their friendship. What happens now? Rin asked softly. Marcus thought about that. There would be questions, investigations, politics, but there would also be truth. The data device would prove what the Krevtal had done. The Felinar would be evidence of their crimes. And maybe, just maybe, it would change things. Change how humans saw other species. Change how wars were fought. Change what peace could look like. Now, Marcus said, we go home. All of us, together. And we show the universe that there's a better way than cages and fear. Sola's head found his chest again, settling over his heart. Rin leaned against his shoulder. Kess sat in front of him, keeping watch even now, protecting her strange little family. And as the ship carried them toward home, toward freedom, toward hope, Marcus closed his eyes and listened to the sound of purring, the sound of trust, the sound of love that crossed species and stars. They had started as enemies in a cage. They were ending as family in the sky, and that, Marcus thought, was the most human thing of all.